Hi, I'm Stephanie. You asked for it, so today I am doing a beauty haul. It's been requested for a while, so I am excited to share what I have been purchasing for my personal makeup collection. But this haul might be a little different than you're expecting. Everything I purchased over the past 6 months can pretty much fit into the palm of my hand. So 6 months of beauty purchases in one tiny bag. Now I realize this might not look like much compared to those massive hauls out there with boxes upon bags of product, but I do think that there's some value in this approach too. Plus, each of these items has a story. We've got some victories, some spectacular failures, and one purchase that I'm still pinching myself over. Now, I love big haul content as much as the next person. There's something very fun about getting to sneak a peek into someone else's shopping bag. It's like sanctioned nosiness. But here's the thing I've realized about myself, and that is that the more massive haul content I watch, the more skewed my relationship with shopping becomes. When you're constantly seeing people buy 10, 15, 20, maybe even more luxury products all at once, that level of consumption starts to feel almost normal. But for most of us, me included, living that kind of lifestyle would mean being broke and drowning in product that I could never even dream of actually using up. So the one-hand haul is my little counterpoint to typical consumption content. And here's what makes it different. First, I didn't buy all of these items all at once. I bought them one by one over the course of 6 months. Some of them in January, some of them last month. And I think that's a more accurate representation of how a lot of people out there actually purchase luxury items like makeup. Second, you're not going to see a whole lot of hype in this bag. I'm not going to be swatching the 10 latest most viral blushes for you, but I have been using every single one of these products for at least a month, some of them 6 months, and each of them has had to prove itself in my routine. Or not, but more on that in a bit. But third, most of these are what I would consider utilitarian purchases, things that either needed to be replaced or things I needed to try because other items just weren't working out for me. Although there definitely was a splurge in here, but we'll get to that in a minute. Before we get into all the makeup drama, let me show you something I said I wasn't going to buy. These Calecim products. This is their professional serum, and this is their restorative hydration cream. Now, if you saw my review on this line, you might recall that I received both of these items in PR in addition to the multi-action cream. And even though I thought they made a huge difference in my skin, like I got some genuinely impressive results, I specifically said I was not going to repurchase any of the products with my own money because they were simply too expensive for my budget. Famous last words. So here's what happened. I completely used up all the product that Calecim sent me, and then I went back to using skincare for normal mortals. But I noticed that my skin was starting to look a little bit more dull and red again. I mean, it wasn't horrible, but there was a noticeable difference as to how it had looked when I was using the Calecim products. And I began to really miss that kind of glowier, healthier look I had. So I had to make a choice. I could either accept that my skin just wasn't going to look as good as it could, or I could adjust my budget. So I decided I was going to buy less makeup this year and instead put that money into some fancy science-backed skincare. Now, Calecim was kind enough to send me another tub of their multi-action cream as a gift, which was incredibly generous. So initially, I decided I would just purchase the professional serum. In my original review, I had said that the restorative hydration cream just didn't feel like it did all that much, so I thought I would just use the professional serum that I bought together with the gifted multi-action cream and just be happy with that. But here's the thing about skincare. Sometimes you don't realize what a product is doing until you stop using it. So after several weeks of using just the professional serum and the multi-action cream, I noticed that my skin was looking better overall, but my redness wasn't as leveled out as it had been when I had been using all three of the products together. So I ended up going back and purchasing the restorative hydration cream because it turns out this was doing more work than I gave it credit for. Kind of like a supporting actor who you don't really notice until they win an Oscar, and then you go back and you watch the movie and you realize how good their performance really was. The gifted multi-action cream is almost gone now, and I do plan on repurchasing this with my own money because this trio has become the backbone of my skincare routine. It's one of those moments when you realize that every once in a while, the premium option really is worth it because it delivers results that you can't get elsewhere. Sometimes you really do get what you pay for. If you have any questions about these lotions and potions, or you want to see my dramatic before and after pictures, I did a detailed review of them, so I'll link that in the show notes and here. Now, let's dive into the makeup like Scrooge McDuck into his Tower of Money. I have several eyeliners here. Now, before you go thinking that I went on some kind of liner shopping spree, let me explain. I bought each of these one at a time over the course of several months, and frankly, it was because so many of them did not work out for me. In fact, one of them has actually already been decluttered. I just have a placeholder in there for it, just to kind of give you a visual story. So here's what happened. My favorite brown eyeliner got discontinued. And of course it did, because that's the way the beauty world works. The moment you find something perfect, it vanishes. That liner had everything I wanted. The brush could create a super fine line or easily thicken up a line depending on the look I was going for. And the shade was ideal. I would say it was like a gentle shade of brown. It was just dark enough to give me definition without being so dark that it looked heavy on my light complexion and light hair. And thus began my quest to find a replacement. My first stop was Maybelline, and it was the Hyper Easy Liquid Liner. That one was such a disaster that it actually made it into one of my extremely rare fail videos. And that was because it was like a little tiny makeup grenade that would just explode ink all over everything. It would leak all over my hands, my makeup, my face, my clothes. And it was much more trouble than it was worth, especially because I didn't think that the formula was all that impressive. Plus, the color was darker than I would have wanted. It was more like a soft black instead of a soft brown. Next, I tried the product that the Maybelline item was supposedly duping, this Lancome Ultra Precise Waterproof Liner in the shade Matte Syrup Brown. The only thing dupey about the Maybelline product is the packaging, because the color and the formula are completely different. This one I still have, although we do have a bit of a love-hate relationship. On the hate side, the brush drives me nuts because you have to prime it first. I always have to press it against the back of my hand to get the ink flowing, and that might seem like a very small thing, but if I forget to do that step, it is so hard to try to get a smooth line. Plus, although this does have decent staying power, it does fade faster than I would like it to. But here's what I love about it. The brown is so beautifully soft and light. It's what I'm wearing right now. It's just enough to define my eyes on those minimal makeup days where I want to look put together, but not done up. But the color is so nice that I find myself wondering if the annoying brush and the limited wear time might actually be worth it. The jury is still out though. As much as I really enjoy the color of the Lancome on very light makeup days, it doesn't have enough impact if I want to do a heavier makeup look. So I decided to try this colorful Winkit felt liner in the shade Cup of Joe from the Sephora collection, mainly because it was deeply discounted. Well, it turns out there was a reason for the deep discount. This has since been discontinued, probably because it didn't work, at least not on my eyelids. They claimed this was smudge-proof and fade-proof, but on my oily lids, forget it. This would not stay put. It is gone. Feel free to leave a poop emoji in the comments if you, like me, have tried to save money by buying the cheaper version of a product, only to regret it later. At this point, I was getting a little desperate, but I soldiered on and I decided I would try the Clinique High Impact Easy Liquid Liner. And I have to say, the brush on this one is gorgeous. It helps me create exactly that fine line that I'm looking for. But this smudges on me within hours, sometimes within an hour. Singular. But I didn't give up hope. During the MAC 30% off sale, I decided to try this MAC Liquid Lash Liner in the shade Cocoa Bar. And so far, it's been interesting. The big pro, it actually stays put on my oily eyelids. No smudging, no fading. Victory! The cons are that I'm not crazy about the format. I generally prefer my liquid liners to come in pen form. And this one, although the brush is nice, I do have to be careful because sometimes a little bit of the product can gather at the opening of the tube and it dries a little bit and can cause clumps. And those clumps will get on the brush if I'm not careful. So I always have to check for that. Also, I like the color, but I think I was hoping for a little bit more of a Goldilocks moment. Not too light, not too dark, but just right. And this one is a little bit darker than I was hoping for. Now, if these two could just have a baby with the format and the immediate dry down of the Lancome and the staying power and a brush that doesn't need to be primed from the MAC and all in an in-between brown, then that would be my holy grail brown eyeliner. But the biggest issue I have with it is how long it takes to dry down. Once it dries, it won't budge, but getting there can take 3 to 5 minutes of intensive fan action. And if I forget to wait until it's dry and I open my eye normally, the wet liner ends up stamped in a weird line on my crease. So the search will have to continue, but not today. Moving on, I also purchased a refill of my MAC Fix Plus. Now, I do think it was a little bit early for me to purchase a refill of this, but at 30% off, I felt like the sale was just enticing enough. 20% off and I would have waited, but I feel like 30% is a discount that's deeper than what I typically find, and I don't find it all that often. So I took it when I saw it. But now we get to my favorite purchase of the year so far. Are you ready for this? Drum roll, please. It's my Gucci bronzer! If you've been following me for a while, then you know I have wanted this for the past 5 years. 5 years! And I finally decided to get it, not because I needed a new bronzer, because to be honest, I had a couple of perfectly good ones, but because of some external factors. With everything happening with tariffs and trade uncertainties, a lot of supply chains are in flux. If you want a bigger breakdown, I did a whole video about it, which I'll link in the show notes in here. But basically, I just realized that there was only one product that I would really regret not having if it got discontinued or if it became prohibitively expensive. And that was the Gucci bronzer in shade 1. Now, I purposely didn't apply any bronzer today so that I can show you the difference this makes on camera. It really is as good as everyone says it is, because I feel like it blurs my skin while adding this beautiful warmth. It sits so naturally, and most importantly, the color really is unique compared to the other bronzers that I already had. So this is genuinely a 10 out of 10 purchase for me. Here's what's interesting though. I purchased this, I don't know, maybe a little over a month ago now, and I am still completely floored that I have this. The excitement hasn't faded at all. And that's kind of rare for me because normally if I make a purchase, I'll be excited about it for the first couple of days or maybe even a week that I have it. But then, things kind of fade into routine. And I think psychologists even call that hedonic adaptation. That's when your happiness goes back to baseline after something exciting like a purchase. But I'm still getting a little thrill every single time I reach for this. And I think there are a couple reasons why. First, I waited so long to get it. 5 years is a long time to wait for something. It builds up a lot of anticipation. And when you finally get that thing and it lives up to the anticipation, that's special. Second, I haven't been buying a whole lot of makeup for my own personal collection recently. And I think that when we're constantly acquiring new things, then each individual item feels a little bit less special just due to the sheer mass of stuff. But when we're more selective about what we buy, then that gives us the potential to think that the purchases are more special. And I almost unwittingly ruined that specialness for myself. I shared the whole story with my Club Adagio members, including my Adagio angels. Basically, let's just say the decision-making process was very fraught with temptation. But the key takeaway is this: choosing to just buy one special item instead of a cart full of products ultimately made my experience of getting this and using it so much more enjoyable. I feel like the long wait and then the resulting slow release burst of enjoyment have made my experience of an already luxury product even more luxurious than it would have been, which is just further proof that the Adagio mindset is working for me. And if you're curious as to what I mean when I say Adagio, I just made a video about it, which I'll link in the show notes and up here. I know that this approach isn't for everyone, and I am not suggesting that bigger hauls are wrong or that everyone should limit themselves to one-hand hauls. But I have found that being more intentional about what I buy has made me more appreciative of what I have. So what do you think? Are you team massive haul or team minimal purchases? Or somewhere in the middle? Have you ever waited years to purchase a new product? And if you did decide to get it, did it live up to your expectations? I would love to hear about your philosophies and experiences and favorite things in the comments. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great week, and we can all remember that even stumbling can be a form of moving forward. So let's stumble in style.